Bum, bum, bum.
Casting from my mom's boyfriend's garage. This is News with Forced Perspective.
Good evening. I'm Senior Anchor Forrest Perspective, the gatekeeper to your political self-awareness. Our top story tonight. Breaking news from the South Carolina Republican presidential primaries, where Donald Trump surged ahead to a clear lead over any opposition from his fellow Republicans. Trump's rise to political significance is an underdog story in the true spirit of the American dream. Trump's noble supporters hold out hope for a Cinderella-ish fairy tale ending with Trump in the White House, as a result of a presidential campaign that focuses on his success and competence as a businessman. In spite of Trump University, Trump casinos, Trump Airlines, Trump vodka, the first Trump marriage, and the 4 times he declared bankruptcy, Democrats will have a lot to contend with dealing with the formidable power of the, let's call it, starry-eyed optimism of the Republican voting base. We go now to sports. Some people wearing black and white made a ball go through a hole more times than some people wearing yellow and purple, thereby bringing validation and meaning to the lives of millions. The European refugee crisis is coming to a new head with the emergence of a disturbing new trend called taharush, the practice of hundreds of men organizing into mobs to sexually assault women in public. For instance, in Cologne, Germany, during the carnival, the number of assaults reported were twice as high as last year's, which doesn't sound that bad, except if you consider that there was a lower turnout, triple the police presence, and a flood of public awareness ads begging immigrant men not to harass local women. In this world where being a woman in public is increasingly unsafe, progressive fourth-wave feminists the world over have united in outrage and demanded that something be done to stop Protein World's new ad campaign. We go now to business. In the stock markets of the 21st century, the name of the game is high-frequency trading, a practice by which the most powerful banks and companies employ powerful computers to calculate the appropriate transactions down to the fraction of the penny and executing them in a fraction of a second, all without human interaction or supervision. Which means how successful you are trading stocks has less to do with education or skill than it has to do with the whims of our robot overlords. Oh, but that doesn't bother you. You know you're gonna make it big because you watch the stock segment of a syndicated news network. I bet your horoscope says you'll be rich too. Ha! The latest reports from Syria show that fire has been exchanged between Turkish forces and the Russian military. Future historians will describe these events as the starting point for World War III, if it hasn't started already. But why exactly are the Russians and the Turkish fighting in all this? It's a complicated subject, but here's a dumbed-down version to help you understand.
Okay, so here's the thing. ISIS isn't the same thing as the Syrian rebels, but they're close enough that only they can tell the difference. The United States is a long-standing ally of Turkey, and Russia has been supporting Assad, who is also being supported by the Kurds and Kurdish forces. Russia has been fighting ISIS heavily, and so has the US, to an effect. ISIS has been trying to destroy Assad, and so has Turkey. Turkey has also been trying to destroy the Kurds, because Turkey hates the hell out of the Kurds. But the Kurds have been getting support from Russia, who has also been trying to kill off the rebels, who are being supported by Turkey. Now, that basically means that Turkey has become in close conflict with Russia, despite the fact that they're supporting ISIS. USA is kind of supporting ISIS too.
Okay, so that covers the basics of the who, what, and where. But that still leaves the question of why. For a more in-depth analysis of the forces behind this conflict, we go now to the geopolitical underground. So here's a little bit of background, just to simplify things. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, that Vladimir Putin is an insane dictator. How about? The sad fact is, he supplies most of Europe's natural gas through pipelines, which means Putin has enough power that there's not a whole lot that Europe can do to control him. Another source of natural gas that Europe could use is the Saudis. But the thing is, the Saudis don't have any pipelines connecting them to Europe, because between them and Europe, there's Iraq and Syria, which are both ruled by dictators that are even crazier and more violent than Putin. So running a pipeline through those countries would make those dictators even more powerful, which is a disaster that Europe is willing to put up with Putin to avoid. Enter ISIS, a destructive extremist organization hell-bent on wreaking havoc across the Middle East. It just so happens that one of ISIS's targets is Assad, the mad dictator in charge of Syria. So if Assad falls, then it'll be a lot easier for the Saudis to build a pipeline to Europe, guaranteeing that Putin loses most of his power and the Saudis are wealthy forever. Now, Putin is seeing this coming, which is why he's investing so heavily in military actions in Syria, because so long as Assad is in power, the Saudis can't build their pipeline and Russia's interest in European oil markets is safe. So how do the Saudis rank on this scale of mad dictators? Well, think of the Beverly Hillbillies. Just some simple, old-fashioned, salt-of-the-earth folks who happen to discover that their ancestral homeland is built upon an immeasurable wealth of mineral resources. Now take that exact same situation, but this time replace the hillbillies with ISIS. Seriously, from their justice system to their human rights record, Saudi Arabia is basically what ISIS is going to look like once they've eliminated enough domestic opposition to establish their own nation. Really, the most compelling reason for why the Saudis aren't a terrorist state is, hey, how can they be terrorists when we give them so much money? Ultimately, it's a geopolitical chess match tug of war that all but guarantees the entire region is going to be endlessly embroiled in a churning cesspool of violence and suffering for longer than any of us will live. While it may be disturbing to think of profit being given higher value than human lives, keep in mind that we currently possess the level of technology to eradicate the entire world's human population with nuclear weapons. The biggest reason that hasn't happened yet is because it's not profitable. The end of all life on Earth would cause a stock market crash, almost as bad as the one in the Great Depression. Our heartless obsession with bottom line profits is the only thing standing between the human race and our own blind self-annihilation. Hail Moloch! Praise the almighty petrodollar! Bow down to the eternal Federal Reserve! Cash and burn! Cash and burn! Don't call it a wasteland. It's the future you chose. But first, a word from our sponsors.
You're in the arms of an angel, far away from here, in this dangled hotel room.
Hello, I'm not somebody relevant, but I play one on the internet. For the low price of liking this video, you can give my ego the boost it needs. And every time you subscribe to my channel, a unicorn gets a hand job. Don't you like unicorns?
Some kind of beer.